Things are heating up in the DC K.O arena, and I'm here to talk about the first 3 fights in the All Fight Month. First of them being Superman versus Captain Atom, Wonder Woman versus Lobo. This one was my most anticipated. And Aquaman versus Hawkman. So I did make a video a little while back when the roster of fighters was announced, and I gave my prediction, and I should get this out of the way now. Heavy spoilers for all of these books, so if you have not read them yet and you want to, save this video for later, but I had some predictions, and we're going to see how my predictions have ranked up so far, and maybe speculate a little bit on where I think this is going. So, we have Superman versus Captain Atom. That was the first fight. My first assumption was that Captain Atom would take the first round, but Superman would ultimately overpower him, and that is exactly what happened. And Superman was definitely holding back his strength in the first round and trying to reason with Captain Atom, because everybody right now is being corrupted by the power of Apocalypse except for Superman, because that's just the type of character that Superman is. He is uncorruptible, and that is how he ultimately gets the upper hand in this fight. Outside of the obvious, Superman being such a strong character, I like that they really lean into the goodness of Superman being an aspect of how he wins the fight. So something that's cool that they've been doing with the fights is, so the first round they will just fight like normal, so have some shots there. But then for the second round they get to choose their own form. So this one is the second round, and Superman chose the Golden Superman Prime, and Captain Atom Monarch. And as the fight goes on, Captain Atom just kind of keeps slipping more and more into darkness and getting more and more hungry for power, and Superman is kind of holding back his punches, trying to reason with the guy. For the third round, you know, they can choose any version of themselves, and Captain Atom chooses to have all of the power, and Superman just chooses to go as himself. And Superman says, "I refuse to lose myself in this place." And thinking back to what Batman said to him in the first issue of DC K.O, Superman is well aware that this is a game, and he's playing by the rules of the game, and Captain Atom is not in this moment, and it comes back to bite him. So you can see he thinks he had the victory, but the heart of Apocalypse knows that Captain Atom cheated, and so Superman was able to absorb all of that energy and throw it right back at him. And there you have it. We are 1 for 1 on my predictions. And of course, it was written by Joshua Williamson, who has been writing the current Superman run. So he's someone that really gets the character and knows how to write him at this point. So really cool for the first fight, and I really like these cover A's. They were done by Jorge Corona, who is going to be doing the art on the upcoming Lobo series. So we'll move right into the Wonder Woman versus Lobo fight, and that one is a really cool cover too. I also got this one in the Joelle Jones variant. And Joelle Jones was the writer on this book, actually. This was one I had a tough time making a call, but I was definitely inching a little bit more towards Wonder Woman, and that ultimately did turn out to be the case, because Wonder Woman is basically a god, and Lobo just made a deal with them. A deal that they could cut at any time they want to, and that is exactly what happened in this book. So if you know Lobo's lore, he has been a nuisance to both heaven and hell. So that's kind of where the deal comes from, that he can't die. So I really enjoyed this book. It was funny, it was entertaining. So you have that guy in heaven, I don't remember his name, but the guy that Lobo made the deal with, he is watching from heaven on TV. So Lobo does take the first round, kind of similar to the Superman book. So he comes in hot, he's a loudmouth. I said this was kind of going to be the hair metal fight, as you can see, and they even do make a little bit of a joke there. And Lobo just walks in like a big shit, just like drinking, saying I'm the main man, I can't die, over and over. He just keeps saying I can't die. And he's getting real cocky. Lobo does take the first fight. And then the second fight is the one where they get to choose their form. So Wonder Woman brings an army of Amazons, and Lobo decides to kind of taunt them a little bit by bringing out his new 52 look, and that was very unexpected and goofy. Wonder Woman gets some good hits in, she knocks him off his bike, she cuts his arm off, and he's kind of taunting like, oh no, as he grows it back, you know. But Wonder Woman kind of distracts him a little bit by having the rest of the Amazons give him the pounding of his life. And then she just comes in with his own bike and runs his ass over. And that's round 2. And then round 3, they're doing like kickboxing and like playing chess. And then finally, they are in the gladiator style fight, the final round. Something I brought up in my prediction video was that Lobo was going to have a hard time using his guns because Wonder Woman could just use her wrists to block them, and that's exactly what we get right there. And Wonder Woman is kind of able to pull one over on him and tie him up with his own chain. And they're kind of at like a standstill where they're both super close to each other, but Lobo keeps taunting, you know, I can't die. But he kind of makes a mockery of the deal he made to keep himself alive. And at the last second, as Wonder Woman is stabbing Lobo, they decide to end the contract. And you can see right there, ripping it up, so that was awesome. It felt like a Lobo comic for sure. It was just goofy, off the rails, some unexpected choices, but overall, so far, all of my predictions have turned out to be right. We actually had 2 fights come out this week at the time of recording, so on top of the Wonder Woman and Lobo fight, we also got the Aquaman and Hawkman, and I have a variant cover here because this is all my LCS had when I went to pick it up, but it takes place in Aquaman number 12, and this was another fight I wasn't really sure about, because I'm not that big into Hawkman. I really don't know that much about his lore, but from what I know about Aquaman, I was leaning in his favor, and the fact that it takes place in an Aquaman book, you know, kind of gives you an idea of where it might lead. And the fact that this is a much thinner book than the other ones, it kind of gave me the impression this was going to be a 2-rounder instead of a 3-rounder, and I was correct about everything again. Something nice about DC with the variants is you do get the cover right there. This one's done by John Timms, who is the artist on the Aquaman book. So it's always nice that you do get the A covers, and it's kind of narrated by Hawkman a little bit, so you get inside his head as the fight is taking place, and he definitely underestimates the sea a little bit, and that was something I talked about a little bit in my prediction video, was how Aquaman has the power of the ocean and all water, and there's always water, so they're in the middle of a desert, and Hawkman's feeling a little good because he's like, hey, there's no water here, but Aquaman quickly teaches him that there's always water. And something else I talked about in my prediction video is that he has the ability to rip all the blood out of anyone, and that is ultimately how he wins the second round. So this one's a much quicker read, but I think all of these fights were strong. And we are so far 3 for 3 on my predictions. So if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link in the description to my previous video talking about DC K.O. If you want to see my thoughts on some of the other fights that will be coming this month. So far, my predictions have been 3 for 3, so maybe don't watch if you don't want to spoil it for yourself. Maybe these books are just super predictable, but maybe it's a testament to how well I just know these characters. Something I talked about in a recent video is how DC K.O is everything people talk crap about DC events for being. And we're all loving it. And that's just a testament to how fun this is. I am very excited to see where they're going with this, but I think I have an idea of where they're kind of going with it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my prediction, where I think this is going to go, who will be the King Omega. Well, I think a lot of people, I even said in my first video, I think it's probably going to be Superman, and that seems like the easy choice, but I think the reason why they're going to do that is because of all the characters, Superman is the only one who's going to restore everything exactly the way it was before. That's even something that was talked about in the fight between Superman and Captain Atom, and Captain Atom was kind of taunting him a little bit about how he wouldn't try to change anything, he would just reset it exactly how it was before. And that's because, you know, of course Superman wants the world to be peaceful and crime-free, but he also wants people to still have free will. Superman is the only one that I think really stands by his conviction that there is no utopia. People need to have free will. And that's something that Superman understands. That's a core of his character, is that he is very connected to humanity. The Heart of Apocalypse, which is the reason that DC K.O is happening, is corrupting all of the fighters. It's making them act out of character, a little bit more aggressive, power-hungry, and Superman is the only one that's able to push through that. I guess except for Batman, but he's off doing his Batman stuff. But Superman is the only one who I think would return everything exactly as it was before. And of course, you know, that's what the writers want to do. And that is the easy, safe option. Of course, they're not going to shake up the universe that much, but I think it's going to come down to Superman and Wonder Woman, because we know that the two of them have won already. I don't see anyone else in the fight that I think could take on them with kind of their godlike abilities. I mean, I think Zatanna could take down Harley Quinn, but I don't think she could take on Superman. So I think it's ultimately going to come down to Superman and Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman is going to be slightly more corrupted, and Superman will be like, Diana, no! And she's going to be like, Clark, we have to do this! I can already, I can feel it. So that's what I think is going to happen. So if you watch this video, I hope you already read these. Let me know what you thought of them, and if not, that's still cool. Thank you for watching, even if you have no interest in these comics. And like I said before, in the description, I will have the link to my previous DC K.O video. That one didn't really get a whole lot of views, so maybe go give it some love.